Good morning, everyone. So you're all from DAV school, I guess. Which class are you from?
Twelfth class. Humanities. Humanities stream.
Oh, okay. And you're all from the 12th grade?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. I'm so happy that you are visiting the Supreme Court. Welcome to all of you. I hope that you've already had your round around the court and you understand, how the court functions a little bit. You have seen the beautiful building which we have, but I thought I'll just share 5 minutes with you and tell you a little bit about our court. As you know, uh, we are the highest court of the country, which is the Supreme Court, and we hear appeals from the judgments of the high courts, like the Bombay High Court or the Calcutta High Court or the Madras High Court, all the high courts in the country, which are, as you know, are the highest state courts representing each of our states and union territories. And the Supreme Court hears appeals from those decisions. We also have constitutional jurisdiction. So we are also the highest constitutional court in the country, and we exercise constitutional jurisdiction in disputes between citizens and the state, between two or more states. For instance, there may be disputes over the sharing of river waters between two states. And we also hear disputes between the government of India, the union government, and the citizens and the states. So we have a very large and wide jurisdiction, but the work which we do in the Supreme Court impacts upon the day-to-day lives of all the citizens. So, for instance, we will deal with issues relating to the freedom of speech. So you're all here talking to me today. If somebody were to tell you that, well, you cannot come and speak to me today, that will be a violation of your freedom of speech and expression. So the Supreme Court remedies those problems where people are complaining that they have been deprived of their right to speak. Uh, we also have part 3 of the Constitution, which is the chapter on fundamental rights. I'm sure you've studied about that in school. And so we deal with the enforcement of fundamental rights for citizens, whether it's the right to education, it's the right to a clean environment, it's the right to privacy, the right to freedom of religion, the right to practice your own profession and your trade or business. And as you know, all these rights, for instance, the right to speak includes the right not to speak. So if your parents ask you a question and you're not in the mood to talk to them, you can always answer, you can keep quiet, right? A lot of us keep quiet. So the right not to speak is also a part of our fundamental right, which the Constitution recognizes. But that is very important, in criminal cases. For instance, the police cannot compel the police cannot compel a person who is accused of an offense to make a confession. A confession which is made by an accused to a police officer is, generally speaking, not admissible. You cannot read that evidence, read that in evidence, unless it's made to a magistrate or a judicial officer. So that's again a facet, of the right to speak, the right not to speak, and the right not to incriminate you. So we have a large number of rights which are recognized by the Constitution. Some rights, as you know, these have been read into the Constitution by the Supreme Court. So, for instance, our Constitution does not contain a specific provision that we have a right to privacy, but the Supreme Court has recognized the right to privacy. Now, the most important fundamental right to my mind is the right to life, which is in Article 21, which says that no person shall be deprived of their right to life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. And we have said that any law which takes away your life or personal liberty must be a fair law. It must be fair in terms of its procedures, in terms of its substance. So, Article 21, in that sense, is the most fundamental provision of our Constitution because it recognizes the right of all of us to live in human dignity and it recognizes the dignity of people. We have the right to equality. There are more girls here today in the audience than there are boys. So, as you know, the Constitution of India recognizes the right to gender equality. It comprehends the right to equality. So, say 75 years ago or 100 years ago, you wouldn't have seen girls and women in such large numbers coming into the public arena. Now, you people are the torchbearers of a new generation because you are leading from the front. What you're studying now will become the groundwork for all of you to lead the nation in the future in whatever you do. So this is a constitutional value, a constitutional virtue, a constitutional right which is conferred on all of you, the right to gender equality. As you know, or perhaps you've heard about this, we've been doing a lot of work. Our court has been doing a lot of work on gender equality. So, for instance, we have said that recently we said that women who are not being given permanent entry into the armed forces, so the Supreme Court held my judgment. We held that women are entitled to permanent commission. That is to say, they can be permanent members of the Army, the Navy, and now we decided the Air Force the other day as well. So this is ensured that women who want to aspire to serve the nation in the armed forces, they can serve the nation in the armed forces, shoulder to shoulder with women, with men. So this is a movement towards understanding that there is nothing in terms of our public life that a man can do which a woman cannot do. Likewise, we have recognized the right to abortion as a part of the protection of the human dignity of a woman and the right of a woman to exercise her own control over her own body, over her reproductive decisions. So we have the large number of judgments of our court of the Supreme Court which protect the right of women so that they can be equal members of our society, equal members of the workforce, and lead from the front. We speak of the right to clean environment. So just as we have the pollution in Delhi, there are so many things which we have done to control pollution all over the country. For instance, in Mumbai, when I was a judge of the Bombay High Court, we directed the introduction of CNG buses. As you know, we have CNG buses in Delhi, which don't run on diesel but on compressed natural gas. Now, this was a Supreme Court directive that we must have CNG buses to reduce the air pollution in the city. So the court is constantly engaging with the Constitution, and we are also constantly engaging with our citizens in the realization of the rights of citizens. Now, that's so much of the good work which we are doing, but we have our own problems as a court. We have a large pendency of cases in the Supreme Court. We have 70,000 cases which are pending in the Supreme Court today. And these 70,000 cases involve cases involving our ordinary citizens who want their pensions, they want a job which has been lost, they want protection of their places of worship, they want protection of the places of work, of their natural habitat. So it's very important for us to expedite cases which come up before the Supreme Court. And we are using a lot of technology now to facilitate the disposal of cases. When the COVID-19 pandemic came upon us in March of 2020, the courts could not open in the physical form because person to person contact was to be avoided. You couldn't be close to each other in a courtroom like all of you are right now. So we started video conferencing hearings. So people could be in their own homes. We couldn't shut our doors because if people are arrested, somebody's house is being demolished, somebody is going to be executed under the death penalty sentence, they have to come to the Supreme Court or to the High Courts to pursue their rights. So we started video conferencing. So basically, the effect of video conferencing is that a lawyer can be or a litigant, a citizen who wants to argue a case before us. They can be in Chennai, they can be in Calcutta, they can be in Lucknow or any small city in the country. They can be in Ratnagiri, they can be in Goa, in Ernakulam, they can be in Srinagar, they can be in Arunachal Pradesh, and they can appear on screen with us. And we hear people who have grievances. So video conferencing, which is technology, has enabled us to reach out to all our citizens. And we are putting out all the information about the Supreme Court as much as we can in the public domain. So we want citizens to know our judgments. We are trying to, translate our judgments into Indian languages. So once we translate our judgments into Indian languages, our citizens can then understand and know in their own language what the Supreme Court is saying, because our language of communication is English. Because you have to have one language. Not everybody would understand a regional language. But at the same time, we have to ensure that our judgments reach out to people. So, all in all, our effort in the Supreme Court is to reach out to our citizens, to reach out to society, and to make sure that we make a difference to the lives of our citizens. So, though in the sense, we are the highest judicial institution, we sit in these rarefied halls. You've seen the courtroom; it's so beautiful. But at the same time, we try and ensure that we reach out to citizens, understand our citizens' perspectives, listen to their grievances. You don't have to come to the Supreme Court only through a lawyer. There are a lot of people who argue their own cases, either because they cannot afford to have a lawyer, or if they can afford it, they feel that they'll do a better job than the lawyer. They're so good in their own presentation. So we hear a lot of individuals. Very interesting case before us was filed by a young law student called Swapnil Tripathi, and Swapnil Tripathi filed a case in the Supreme Court saying that you must live stream your proceedings so that citizens can be able to participate in your proceedings. They can sit in any part of the country and see what is happening in a court, because in a court you can only have, say, 200 people who can come into a courtroom. But when you live stream proceedings, well, there is no limit to the number of people who can watch the court proceedings. So we have started live streaming proceedings, and it all happened because a student moved us. Student came to the court. Likewise, if you remember, there are some provisions of the Information Technology Act, and provisions of the Information Technology Act were challenged by a young law student and then a lawyer called Shreya Singhal. And Shreya came to the Supreme Court and said there are some provisions of the Information Technology Act which are unconstitutional. And so our court dealt with that grievance. So, a lot of people like you are coming to the court. We get students, who are bringing grievances about their admissions to higher education. Somebody who's lost out in an admission to, say, the engineering course or the medical course, or any other course that they wish to apply for, and they feel that they have been wrong because there maybe an answer sheet was not corrected properly, or so on and so forth. So young students like you have been approaching our court as well, in search of solutions to many of the problems which come across us in society. But remember one thing, you all are going to such good schools. You're highly educated. You're going to be highly educated. But remember that this is a blessing which you've got. There are many people in our country who don't have these blessings which you have, of being in such a large city, of going to such a good school. You'll have schools in the country where children don't have places to sit. The roof may be leaking. When the rains come, the roof starts leaking. So everybody doesn't have the blessing of going to such a good school and getting the kind of education that you do. So, with this that you have, all the good education that you have, and which your parents are doing for you, and your teachers are doing for you, your teachers are giving you such good values, your parents are teaching you good values, especially for the girls, your parents are ensuring that you'll be able to do well, you'll be able to do well, then you will work hard, you'll join the workforce, you'll become political leaders, maybe some of you will become lawyers, judges, chartered accountants, doctors, engineers, space scientists. So, with this comes a great deal of responsibility. So, all of you as citizens have a great responsibility in the nation. And your responsibility is to ensure that you put the value of your education to good use, not only for yourselves, but for others as well. Of course, you have to do well for yourselves, because as you progress in life, you will get good jobs, you'll earn good money, you'll have the money to buy good houses, good cars, good television sets, good smartphones, and all that. There's nothing wrong about that. Obviously, when you do well in life, you also get access to good opportunities for good living. But you must always bear in mind those who are less fortunate than you, and maintain their dignity. The peon in your school who serves you and cleans your toilets. You have to be aware of the fact that their dignity counts as much as the dignity of your parents or your brother or sister or friends. Never look down upon any occupation. Always treat people who are less fortunate than you or people who are lower than you in social hierarchy with a great deal of empathy, understanding. Never say that, well, somebody else is bad. Even, I mean, I'm now a judge. I get criminals coming up before the Supreme Court, right? And I know that even behind every crime, there's a human story. It could be that a criminal was, maltreated by a father or a stepfather. Some of them have been abused when they were children. So, which is not to say that we will not do justice under the law. If they have to go to jail, they have to go to jail. And we have to administer the law. But there is a human story behind all suffering. So, you must understand human suffering. Sometimes when people don't think like you, they don't speak like you, they don't dress like you, don't ever criticize them. Understand why they are like that. When I was in college in Delhi University, we had a large number of students from the Northeast. And, interacting with the students from the Northeast gave us such a great insight into diverse cultures in India. India is such a diverse and complex country. So, your friends even among your friends, you'll have friends from Kerala who speak Malayalam at home. You'll have friends from Calcutta who speak Bengali. You have friends from Maharashtra who speak Marathi at home. You will have friends from Punjab who speak Punjabi at home. But it's not just a question of diversity of language. There's this diversity of culture in India. And do remember that, the strength of India lies in our diversity. The strength of the country lies in, all our pluralism. We are all so different from each other, but we are still one. We are still one nation. I might celebrate Ganpati, you might celebrate Durga Puja, somebody else will celebrate Onam. But we respect each other because of this great diversity, and we respect the right of each of us to celebrate their own cultures. So going forward, remember that this is the great thing which binds our nation. That we are a nation of diverse peoples, over 1.3 billion, but we are all knit together in one bond of uniformity, and that uniformity is what citizenship gives us. We are citizens of this great nation. So all of you, the boys, the girls who have come here, thank you so much for coming to our court. And I wish you the best. I hope this will inspire many of you to join law. Law is a fantastic discipline. There's a tremendous scope for boys, men and women now. In the state of Rajasthan, 60% of the new recruits into the district judiciary are women. So there's a great opportunity for women and men in the law. So please, I hope this visit will inspire many of you to come and join the law. And thank you very much for visiting our court. Come again, and hopefully one day some of you will come and intern in the Supreme Court as well.
Thank you.
Yes,
They wish to have some questions.
Does anybody have a question?
yes, sir.
Sure, tell me, ask me a question.
So I also aspire to be an advocate, but I feel nervous and anxious when I think of that I will be the place that you are. So how do I manage?
I'll tell you, it's good to be nervous. When I was coming to speak to you, I was also nervous because I said, I'm speaking to these bright young kids who are so much more worldly wise than maybe I am. And what do I talk to all of you? So there's a little bit of nervousness, but we must challenge our own nervousness. One of our greatest lawyers, Mr. Nani Palkhiwala, had a stammer when he was a child, and he became one of the greatest orators India has known. He had a stammer, and so it's good to be nervous because you can then sort of challenge yourself, carve out your own path. But most important, you all have information at your fingertips now, right? You have so much of information. So tap all that information, learn more about the law, the legal profession, which universities do you get admission to, how do you go to a good law school like the National Law School, ask friends around who are connected with the law, and that will help you reduce your anxieties. It's good to have these anxieties and very natural. Don't feel that you're the only person who has anxieties. I have anxieties myself at my age, so why wouldn't you have them? So we have to deal with them and relax. Don't ever think that's the end of the world. You will have success, you will have failure. There's no such thing called failure. If you have failure, you will learn what you did wrong, and then you can go on to success. So don't put pressure on yourselves. There's a place for all of us under the sun. Don't get stressed, by maybe some lower marks or you didn't get exactly the admission which you wanted to get. The world is such a big place.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as we know that your father was also the Chief Justice of India, so my question is that have you taken any inspiration from him, and what message do you wish to give today's school generation now?
Yes, I have been inspired very greatly by my father. My father was the Chief Justice of India. From him, I learned that however high you are, don't feel that you know everything, because the world of knowledge and wisdom is so vast. It's mostly lies beyond us in its entirety. Second, I learned the importance of being humble and being understanding humility, not belittling other people. Uh, so, what I really learned from my father was his sense of dedication to the cause. And that's my message to our young school children today, that pick up your causes, identify what gives you happiness, what gives you peace of mind, and try and do something for society to make society, our world around us, a better place. Talk to people around you. You can talk to people who help you in the house. You can talk to a housemaid. Tell her why she must educate her daughter and not get her married off at the age of 13 or 14. So, you will be able to start right within your own home in making the change. So, this is my message to our school children. Do well for yourself, study hard, but don't just study. Understand, life around, travel a lot, see the world, see the country, see the diversity of the country, sort of get different experiences, whether it's in terms of food, it's in terms of music, it's in terms of our festivals, it's in terms of dressing up. So try and get different experiences so that it will make you one holistic person.
सर सर ये हेलो
Yes.
हाँ बोलिए।
सर ये एनएलयू में नेशनल लॉ यूनिवर्सिटी में ना ट्रांसजेंडर रिजर्वेशन इतना लो क्यों है, मतलब रिप्रेजेंटेशन जीरो क्यों है सर?
देखिए, वी हैव टू वर्क ऑन दिस बिकॉज आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं that we have to ensure that the rights for the transgender population are realized. आपको पता है हमारा ही जजमेंट है. This is something where और law है हमारे लिए for protection of the transgender population. Now it's a question of implementing that law, that we have to ensure कि हमारे जो बड़े बड़े law schools हैं, और law schools ही क्यों, IITs हैं, engineering colleges हैं, medical colleges हैं, उसमें हम लोगों को ट्रांसजेंडर पॉपुलेशन के लिए जो उनके हक हैं उनको देने ही चाहिए. और हक नहीं दे रहे हैं तो जरूर कोर्ट को उसमें अपना उत्तरदायित्व निभाना चाहिए, ताकि हमारी तो भी जिम्मेदारी है कि उनके लिए जो हक दिए हैं पार्लियामेंट ने, कानूनों में, वो हक उनको मिलने चाहिए. Anybody else?
So first of all, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for us. I would like to ask you that. So I also aspire to be a judge and eventually a Chief Justice of India if possible. So what qualities do you think I and other students who want to pursue this field should have in order to be successful in our careers?
See, I'm now at the tip of my career, the final tip of the career. But this has been preceded by 20 years of hard work as a lawyer. Before that, hard work as a student. Then came my life as a lawyer. Then 22 years, I've been a judge of the High Court, now in the Supreme Court. I was a judge of the Bombay High Court for 13 years, the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court for 3 years. And in the last 6 years, 6.5 years, I've been a judge of the Supreme Court, now Chief Justice of India for the last 1 week. So, what you must do is always carve out your vision. First, tell yourself, I have to first become a lawyer. So, how do you become a lawyer? Tell yourself, well, I have to gain access to a good law school, for which I must study. I must read the newspapers, understand, what it is to get admission to law school. When you get admission to law school, take your career very seriously. When you pass your law school, ask yourself, do I want to do a post-graduation? Or if I want to do my law here, practice law, what are the sort of clients I want? Do I want to serve the poor clients? Do I want to serve the corporate clients? And do whatever you do with perfection. You see, as a lawyer, you always have an opponent in the court, but you are competing against yourself. You have to lay down your standards. You must also lay down ethical standards. If you want to become a judge, You must always do something which is right. Never take a shortcut to, shortcut to success by doing wrong things. So once you decide that, look, I will only follow the correct path through my life, that will be a training ground for the time when you become a judge. Then you can become a judge and aspire to get your goals.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, my question is that now you have reached such a great height. How do you feel? Like many of us surely will aspire to be a Chief Justice or the Judge of Supreme Court and High Court. How do you feel to reach that height?
You know, I can answer that by saying I feel a great sense of awe about my own office, because the higher your post, the higher you go, the greater your feeling that, this has been given to me to serve the nation, to serve our citizens. So that's how I feel, and whatever time I have before I retire, I want to use every minute of my time to serve our citizens, to make their lives better, to make their lives happier. I can't always wipe every tear from every eye, as was said so effectively by the founding father of our nation. But you can certainly try your best, to help others in distress. Because the court is a place where people come in distress. They are victims of injustice. So that is how I feel. I feel a great sense of duty, of responsibility to the nation, to the great nation which has chosen me to be the Chief Justice of India.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what advice would you like to give to the children wanting to pursue a career in law?
My advice to you is that there are many options in law today. You can, after you pass your law, you don't have to come and practice in the court. There are people who will join the law firm and do transactional lawyering. Other people will become lawyers and join the court. Other people will opt for the judicial service. Judicial service is also a very stable occupation, because you have a job from your day one when you enter the judicial service, and then you progressively go up in the hierarchy, become a district judge, then a judge of the High Court, and hopefully a judge of the Supreme Court one day. So I would I'll tell you, if you're interested in the law, that keep all your options open. And then once you sort of pass your law, you're doing your law, you'll get an idea of which is the area of law which interests you, where do you want to go forward as a young lawyer, and then take your career up from there. Keep all your options open in life, and study hard. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming to the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll meet again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.